All right, I'm going to tell the story first person, and that means I become Cynthia Ann. Okay, back to the story. 1833. I'm 6 years old, and I live in Illinois. And one night after church, my family decides, with 6 other families, they're going to move to the frontier. They're going to move to Mexico, which is here. And they're going to build a fort to protect themselves. So the men take off the next morning or so, and I come to live in the fort a year later. It takes us a year. The women and children get on a wagon train to make it here. And when we arrive, this fort is built. These men have taken a year. And I lived in this fort for almost 3 years. But May 19th, 1836, I'll never forget. Early in the morning, the men get up like they always did, and they went out into the fields to do their farming. And the gates were open, because we left the gates open during the day, because we had not seen any hostile Indians in over a year. Gates are open. Men are gone. 5 men are left to protect us. All of a sudden, we look up from washing and all the things we have to do in the fort. There's 5 to 700 Comanche Kiowa warriors on horseback right outside the front gate, and it's open, and we're alone. Needless to say, they attacked. The first man was killed with an axe or tomahawk, and then they rushed in the fort, and we, as women and children, ran as hard as we could to that back spring gate and tried to escape. And they killed the other 4 men that were left there. They tried to shoot them with their rifles, but they were immediately filled like a pincushion with arrows, died instantly. That made us more upset. Screaming, crying, trying to make the back gate. They swished through on their horses. They grab 5 people, and they ride off. They do not kill any other women. They don't rape women. They don't kill any children, hurt anybody else. They take 5 hostages and immediately ride off. I'm 9 years old. My brother John's 6. My Aunt Rachel is 17, and she held on to her baby. She wouldn't let it go, so they took him too, James Pratt. And then my other aunt, Miss Kellogg. All these people eventually get returned, but me. And I go to live with the Comanche. And I learn to do what Comanche girls do. And I'm constantly looking all the time, learning about the Comanche ways, looking over my shoulder, hoping someone comes to rescue me, but nobody comes. So that by the time I'm 12, I decide I'm not going back. I have blue eyes and light hair, so I'm constantly spotted by traders, and they're always trying to get me back. They tell me to my parents, but I'm 12 years old and I know better. They're not probably taking me back home. My father was killed that day in the fort. No one ever came for me, so I decided to live with the Comanche. And I learned to do what Comanche girls do. They gentle all the horses. And the way they gentle the horses, they take them out in water over their head. The horse can't touch the ground. A horse cannot buck if he cannot put his feet on the ground. And then we'd swim up to them and get on their backs. And they would get used to us young girls riding them, and that's how we would break the horses. And that's why the Comanches are often thought to have the best horses, and were the best horsemen, because their horses were very well broke by young girls. And then the men and boys would finish the horses for war and for hunting. That's what I did. And when I'm 17 years old, a man rides into camp and wants to marry me. And I've seen this man every winter, because the Comanches, all 5 tribes, would meet on the plains for winter. So grandmothers could see their grandchildren that were married into another tribe, and everybody could visit. 1 month out of the year, we'd meet on the plains. And I would see this man, and this man was 17 years old the day I was captured at this fort, and he knew me as a 9-year-old girl would probably grow up to be Comanche. And he watched me grow up, and every winter he would see me. And so he fell in love with me, and so he asked me to marry him. And I did. And I went to live with him. And his father was a war chief, and later he became one. His name was Peta Nakona. Now, Peta Nakona was my husband, and we have a child about 3 years later, and we named him Quanah, which means fragrance. But in the meantime, all these Anglos are coming, and they're putting fences up. And our buffalo, we have followed the buffalo for 200 years, back and forth over their migration of 2,000 years. Buffalo have migrated from around Colorado down to Mexico, Mexico back to Colorado. And we would follow them at a safe distance, and a distance enough to keep us alive, and we would kill the buffalo as needed. We're doing this, and all of a sudden fences come. Instinct, the buffalo's shy. They start moving further west. And by then, they keep moving further west. And then I have my second child 3 years later, and his name is Pecos. Anglos keep coming. And the buffalo keep getting further away. Then the buffalo hunters are there, and they start killing all of the buffalo. You start slaughtering 1,000 a day. If they could get by as many times as they could get their guns off, they would be killing buffalo, skinning them and leaving all the carcass and all the things that we used. They kept coming closer. We start getting very hungry, and they keep coming closer, and all of a sudden we're told to go to the reservations. The ones that don't go are considered hostile. My family's hostile. My husband's very hostile. He's very angry by them. We're losing our hunting grounds. We're losing our sacred way of life. So he starts striking back in these villages, these Anglo villages, and killing people and burning them and torturing them, which Comanches are very good at. Doing all of these things. And so something has to give. The governor of Texas commissioned Sul Ross, the head ranger, to find my husband, never knowing that he's married to a white woman. So he goes out and he searches. And he searches for a year. And finally he hires the Tonquas, which were blood enemies of the Comanche. And they were able to lead him to our village one winter. The women are left alone again, the same scenario. My boys are 12 and 9. Quanah's 12 and Pecos is 9. They're off with their father hunting. They're trying to find us food somewhere. Here come the Rangers up over the hill near the Peace River, kind of where Crowell is today. Boom, they see us. Sul Ross has waited a year for this. Boom, boom, boom. And then he rides up and he realizes, these aren't men, because the buffalo robes come open. And he realizes, these aren't men, but these creatures run and jump on these horses from behind. These women, he had no idea they were women. He said, hold your fire, these are women, it's not honorable. We didn't come to kill the women. He was amazed because he didn't know Comanche women could ride that good. Well, after all, that's all they did when they were little girls. So he said, hold your fire, we want Pettinacona. He doesn't get, this is a year mission he has not been successful at, but he sees me and my blue eyes, so he snatches me up. He says, at least I'm taking something back. So he takes me back, and I go to live with my Uncle Isaac. But I live outside in Parker County near Fort Worth, and I start stealing horses, because I'm very good at it, because I'm Comanche. I know how to steal your horse. And I stole a lot of horses trying to get away with my little baby girl. I'd had one by then, and her name was